Yeah.
I don't care.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Two for Talking podcast. I'm your host, Corey Tusick, and I've got comedian Joe Bartnick alongside. And if you were at the improv, he had quite a crowd there, so I hope you checked him out. But if you didn't see him at the improv this past Thursday, he will be in Dallas on July 20th, and then August 8th and 9th at Sadman's in Boca Raton, and August 23rd at the Boston Comedy Studio. And then Josh Yohe, as always, joins from The Athletic. And Josh, you had a little bit of Sunday work for you cut out because, you know, the Penguins can't help themselves.
I know Jim Rutherford always had the habit of making trades right when I was crossing the border into Canada and I had no cell phone reception. And again, Jim's involved in this one, I guess, come to think of it. And the Penguins pulled off a trade with Vancouver back in January, the Pettersson trade that was like at midnight. So, yeah, they got to work on the timing of these trades a little bit, but nonetheless, a very interesting past 4 or 5 days for the Penguins with a couple of trades. And they're not really giving up much to get some things in return. And that's the whole point of trading if you can pull it off. So I think a couple of interesting moves in the last few days, Joe.
I love both these moves. And I just want to say one thing. I want to thank every single person that came out to the improv on Thursday night in Pittsburgh. What an incredible show. And thank you all for being there. I love these two moves. I've enjoyed Dubas's summer after the first pick. I think it's been all uphill since then. No, to get to today's news, Silovs, full disclosure, I picked him to win the Rookie of the Year this year.
I knew he sounded familiar for more than one reason. I literally was like, where did we talk about him in the podcast in the past? So it didn't go so well for him, though. It did.
Well, he ended up, I believe he won the AHL, whatever they call the cup, right, Josh?
Yeah, he won the Calder Cup, and he was the MVP of the entire AHL postseason. And people, if you're thinking about his name, maybe it sounds familiar and you don't know why. In the playoffs last season, in 24, Thatcher Demko and Joe's favorite Casey DeSmith both got injured. And he came in as a 22-year-old nobody or 23-year-old nobody at the time and beat Nashville 2 out of 3 games to win that series. Then he took McJesus and Leon to 7 games the next round, played pretty darn well given that Edmonton team and the way it was playing then. This is a really talented kid who he's only 24. He hasn't really put it all together yet, but he was also the MVP of the World Championships for Latvia a couple of years ago when they won the bronze medal and beat Team USA in a pretty massive upset, put on a show. This is a guy who's kind of got the reputation for being a little enigmatic. You know, he's great one game, then he'll give up a couple of softies the next game, hasn't put it all together yet. But boy, for giving up almost nothing, sure seems like a pretty nice risk to take, Joe.
Josh, it absolutely does. And dare I say he's by far now the most decorated goaltender in the system.
Yeah, I mean,
he's won the most playoff games, that's for sure.
Well, he's won more playoff games than the Penguins have won in the last 8 years. So, yeah, I mean, he has. He's really interesting. And for people, people have tweeted at me like, why is this guy available if he's so good? Well, number one, he's not a sure thing. I mean, there's still some uncertainty with just how good he is. And number two, the Canucks already have almost $10 million a year locked up in their top 2 goalies. And they have a couple of other really good young goaltenders in their system. They just had too many goalies. And I almost get the sense it was to do this kid a favor as much as anything. And they also didn't want to let him go on waivers or whatever and just lose him for nothing. But they just have a surplus of goaltenders. And let's be honest, Jim has a good relationship with Dubas. That don't think stuff like that doesn't play a role. I'm sure other teams were interested in this kid. I have absolutely no doubt when you consider the goaltending issues teams around the league have. Somebody said, I can't believe Edmonton wasn't on this. Why would Vancouver trade him to Edmonton? Like they don't want to help the best team in the West. Of course they don't. But stick tap to Kyle Dubas. I think this is very much a good move for the Penguins. And I think at worst, Joe, I think this guy makes the team out of training camp, right? I'd be shocked if he doesn't.
Yeah, if anything, it's only going to hurt the young goaltenders, because I think I think this paves the way to get rid of Jari.
It may.
Yeah. Does that as Marcy tweeted in, is this an indictment of Bloomquist in his development?
That was actually my first thought. I don't know if indictment's the right word. I just don't know how good he is. He had a couple of really good games last October when he came out of nowhere, and Jari sucked in the first game of the year. Then Bloomquist stood on his head the next two games, and I think it gave us maybe an inflated perception of where Bloomquist was in his development. I'm not saying he's a bad goalie. He might well go on to be a solid NHL goalie, but he didn't really look like one in his last few NHL starts.
He did not. And
No.
Marcy, that is a great point. And maybe I jumped the gun on getting rid of Jari. But I do say this, that if you are going to get rid of Jari, he's the guy that you can put your team in front of for the regular season if you don't want to throw Miroshov or Bloomquist into the deep end of the pool, and you kind of don't care if you win or not.
Right. And he's exactly the kind of guy you take a chance on. Because if he puts on a show and puts it all together, okay, great. But one of my first thoughts was on Miroshov, and you don't want to rush him. Mm-hmm. You want to bring him up when he's ready. And if he's as good as people think he might be, why would you want him playing behind this blue line this year? This team's going to give up a lot of goals. This is not a good defensive team. I actually think Dubas has made their forwards better. If they don't trade anyone between now and the start of the season in the forward unit, that's a pretty good group of forwards they have. The blue line's awful. They're going to give up a lot of goals. I don't think you want that from Miroshov. I really think the plan is for Miroshov to be the guy in Wilkes-Barre this season. And if he and Bloomquist play 50-50 in Wilkes-Barre, that's fine. There's enough net to go around for both of them there. I have no problem with that at all. But with this trade they made today, this is a trade more for the NHL team, quite honestly. This guy's an NHL goalie. And there's no lock that, Jari's the number one guy when the season starts, Joe. If this kid outplays him, okay.
No, absolutely what you said earlier, that at the very least, he had to crap the bed to not make this team.
I think so. Yeah.
And I've seen the highest of highs with Jari, and I've seen the highest of highs with Silovs, because if anyone thinks, Bartnick wasn't paying attention, remember who his coach was for the last 2 years. And in the playoffs, it was Mr. Rick Tocchet. Right. I watched a lot of Silovs. I bought in that he was going to start the beginning of this year because I figured Demko would be hurt, and I thought he was going to have a great season. I didn't know that two guys couldn't get along in Vancouver and couldn't play together, and they'd have to ship him down to the AHL, and we all know that soap opera. But I think this is a total upgrade in the goaltending area, and I think Jari is basically put on notice.
I do too, and I think it's just a smart move to make. This is a 24-year-old goaltender with all kinds of potential. You gave up a nothing prospect and a fourth-round pick for him. And he makes less than $1 million this season. So it's just a win-win move for the Penguins all around. And this guy, I've watched him play a good bit too, just from watching a lot of Vancouver games, much like you, Joe. I like Rick Tocchet. So, I would watch the Canucks play a lot. And this is a physically gifted goaltender. He's 6'4", and he's athletic, and he makes the highlight reel save a lot. His specialty is against grade A opportunities. His numbers are really good against them. That's where he's at his best. His weakness, he'll give up a softie every game. He gives up a lot of goals on shots from the point, stuff like that. That's kind of the book on him. But that's something you can work with. A lot of that's correctable. There is just a ton of natural talent there. And clearly, as we saw in the playoffs and the big stage, he is not afraid. The bigger the game, it seems, the bigger he plays. And that's not something you can say about Tristan Jari. In fact, he's always been the opposite. That's pretty noteworthy, I think.
I would dare I say he has a lot of flower in him. He comes up with some remarkable, how the hell did he do that saves? Mm-hmm. I mean, just guys, Jesus and Leon. He almost won that series. And don't think for a second, Vancouver played hard, and some guys had coming out parties, Joshua, and so on. But, man, he stopped Leon and Jesus were shaking their heads.
Yeah, he was on fire that series. And that's how I remembered him, and then I knew there was another comment, and that's why I was like, I know Joe brought him up. It's another point. But I mean, he almost took that series. And Josh, I kind of wanted to ask you about, I mean, whenever I was going to point to your article in the Athletic, mentioning how great he's played in big games. I mean, he just won the Calder Cup. He won on the international stage as well. You pointed out. Do you think, I'm not shipping the guy out already, but like, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, he has a good season and there's somebody that needs a goaltender at the trade deadline. And we're not anywhere near making the playoffs. Is he somebody that could be a chip, or do you think he's someone that you hold on to and see how it plays out with him?
Anything's possible. Some of that depends on how Miroshov looks in training camp and how he looks in the American Hockey League this season, assuming that's where he plays. If Miroshov shows up in September at camp and is by far their best goaltender, and if they find themselves convinced, like, this guy's the future, this guy's a star, well, then at that point, sure, I think anybody can be flipped if you're convinced that he's the guy. But really, I don't think that's why they got him, and I don't think that's likely to happen. I think if you're Kyle Dubas, you look at the goalies and you say, Miroshov, okay, he might be the guy. He might be a legit number one goalie in a year or two. Maybe the kind of guy you can win with. But that's not a sure thing. Like, he was still a fourth-round pick. He still hasn't played a game in the NHL, so there's still a lot of unknown there. And with Blomqvist, I think there's a limited ceiling. So this is a goalie that I think has kind of maybe a low floor and a high ceiling. Like, this is a really talented, gifted guy. To get someone like that for basically nothing when you're still unsure of your goaltending moving forward, it's just a no-brainer. It would have been negligence on Dubas's part to not make this deal, I think.
Well, absolutely. It's asset management. He has got a excellent young goaltender in the Penguins system. He can move him, he can flip him, he can play him in Wilkes-Barre, he can play him in the NHL. He's literally the only guy in the system that's won a playoff game.
Yeah. Do you think this means
I mean, that has to mean something. Yeah, he's won the series in the playoff game. It has to mean something. And I really think that it's scary. I mean, I think you can package Jari now, because I think worrying about, oh my God, now we're going to have no one to play net. Silovs is an NHL goaltender. He's not a young guy. He's not a prospect. He's not a guy that came up for a cup of coffee and got scared. He's a real NHL goaltender. Now the Penguins have two.
He is. And I wonder about Jari. I've been wondering about him all summer. People always are asking about trades and who they're going to move. Carlson, Raquel, Rust. And nobody's really mentioned Jari's name. And I certainly am of the belief that if they can trade him, they will, especially if they wouldn't have to retain any money. I truly think they would like to move on from him, and they're ready to do that. Will it happen? I don't know. The odds are probably against it, if I had to guess, just because all those teams that had so much money to spend 2 weeks ago, now a lot of them are up against the salary cap because of free agency and the money that was spent. So it might be harder to move Jari now. But I still don't think he sees the end of his contract in Pittsburgh, and we know it's a matter of time.
But Josh, now you can lose Jari, and you still have before the fear was you don't want to put these young kids in front of a terrible or behind a terrible defense.
Right.
Now you don't have to. Now you can literally just get $5 million off your salary.
No, and you're right. This is the kind of kid who I think his history tells us you can put him behind a crap team. He led Latvia to a bronze medal in the World Championships. I assure you the Latvian roster did not have more talent than the teams they were playing against, and he still thrived in that setting. Like, that's kind of encouraging that he maybe has that mindset, that personality, that he actually elevates his game in that kind of an environment, because most goalies aren't wired that way. And we don't know this guy just yet. We're only basing this on stuff we've seen from afar. But yeah, I think he's a really intriguing player. I actually spoke with our old friend Jim Rutherford this afternoon after the trade, and he basically told me, like, he's a little inconsistent, We asked him to work on some things, and he did, and he got better, and he's trending toward becoming a really good NHL goalie. That's what Jim thinks, and I don't think Jim was just saying that to be nice. I think he really believes that. I don't think he wanted to lose him from the organization, but I just don't think they had much choice because they had so many goalies. That's the story of Jim. He's been down that road before. Too many good goalies in the organization. I'm going to lose one of them, and on a lesser scale, he lost one today that I don't really think he wanted to lose. So. It's just to the Penguins' benefit that this is a win-win for the Penguins. Like if he doesn't work out, you didn't really lose anything. No harm done. But why not take a chance on somebody with this kind of talent?
It's turning history, because how many times have I sat on various podcasts and radio stations in the last decade and been like, that guy went for that? Why didn't we get involved in that try?
Yep.
Why didn't we get that guy? If I would have seen that Silovs went to anybody else for nobody in a 4th round pick, I'd have been like, I can't believe we didn't get him. We finally won a trade like this. This was literally handing someone a Christmas gift.
And with all due respect to Chase Stillman, I know he was a former 1st-round pick. He scored 1 goal in 19 games with Wilkes-Barre. Like I don't know if there's much there. That's not a prospect that the Penguins thought was a part of their future. You lose a 4th-round pick. Christ, they have so many draft picks in the next 3 years. They can afford to lose a few of those draft picks, and that's not going to hurt them. And I also think, I know Jim Rutherford really well. And, yeah, his job and Patrick Alvin's job is to get the best return they can anytime they trade a player. But when Jim likes somebody, especially, he'll take care of them a little bit. Jim knows what the goaltending situation is in Pittsburgh. He knows better than anyone what it is. And so, I'm sure there were multiple teams interested in this kid, but Jim knows in Pittsburgh, he could really theoretically have a chance to be the guy. And I'm sure he wanted to give him that opportunity. So sometimes trades are more simple than you think. And it really does work like that from a human standpoint. And that might be the case here.
I'm sure he told Silovs, hey, you go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, these guys in Pittsburgh suck. You might actually be the guy.
Yeah.
Did Jari play last year? Yeah. I mean,
beat out Jari.
I love Uncle Jim. He's like the uncle that like you don't know what he's gonna do. He comes down. Maybe he's had a few pops, and he's like, maybe he's gonna give you some candy, or maybe he's gonna start a poker game or something. You don't know. Right. I love it.
He's like all my uncles, and how I'm the uncle to my nephews. I will say this: a fan listener, thank you for chiming in. Said, does Latvia have a better defense than the Pens? I don't know about that, yeah. but I know Latvia's defense has Kavorka.
That's right.
The lure of the animal.
I was at the World Championships in Sweden back in May, and I will say this: the Latvian fans can really party. I was outside of the arena in Stockholm, and the Latvians were all I saw was booze and cigarettes in every corner, and not an unattractive one of the bunch. They were having a good time. The Latvians, they were our kind of people, I assure you.
I'm fired up, and I'm also fired up about the other trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the other trade. I'll bring it in here, but it was Matt Dumba. And Joe, I really want to know, because I don't know your thoughts on Matt Dumba, and I feel like you'll have some feelings towards him. But Matt Dumba comes to the Penguins with a 2nd-round pick for Vladislav. I always screw that name up, but Kolyachuk.
Close enough.
I yinsed it up. It's funny because actually my friend Dom, who commented on the show last week, we never even got to it. He asked about Kolyachuk and where he fits in, and I guess we got our answer there. But Joe, what do you think about Matt Dumba coming to the Penguins?
Well, first of all, Corey, I want to thank Mr. Dubas for not having us ever have to pronounce or spell that other guy's name again. So thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Dubas, for that. I am a big Matt Dumba fan. I never understood why Minnesota for years couldn't wait to get rid of him, and he was always on the block. I didn't understand what Billy G didn't see or didn't understand about Dumba's game. He has a lot of easy for me to say. A few years ago, I thought he had some offense. He'd go up ice. He's a pretty decent sized guy. He likes to hit. He'll drop the gloves. He's aggressive. He's got some speed. He's a totally perfect 3rd, 4th defenseman. He did something happened in Dallas, but you look at Dallas's 6 guys, they're all really good. So, being the seventh guy in Dallas is not exactly, being you're a terrible defenseman. Just means you might not have fit in right down there. But I think I especially wanted Dumba like 3 or 4 years ago. But now I'll definitely take the chance on him for a guy that was never going to fit in Pittsburgh. I think it's another great move by Mr. Dubas. What do you say, Josh?
Yeah, I like it a lot. Again, you gave up nothing. Like you picked him up on waivers last year. There's just not much there. Okay, so you don't give up anything. Dumba might not be the player he was 5 years ago, but he's still a pretty solid NHL defenseman, like Joe said. And he won 4 years in a row earlier in his career, scoring double-digit goals all 4 years. Like he has some offense to his game. He plays with an edge, which the Penguins certainly need. Even if he is on the decline a little bit, he's only 30. And if he's, I think he's still a good third-pairing defenseman at worst. And like you said, okay, he was the number 7 guy in Dallas. Well, Dallas on paper might have had the deepest team in the league, so there's no harm in that. That I'm not going to judge the guy too harshly because of that. But again, we talk about Dumba and getting him for nothing, and that's great. He doesn't make that much money. But again, I know we're looking way into the future here, but you got a 2nd-round pick for it too. I mean, that's the thing. That's okay. It's 3 years away, but still, the way they have stockpiled 1st and 2nd and 3rd-round picks. I know everybody wants to win right away. I get that, but down the road, that will pay dividends. I mean, that's a legitimately big deal, and that's probably more than any other reason why the trade was made. Dubas is really good at taking advantage of teams that are having salary cap issues. And it helps when you've got money to spend, which the Penguins do right now. We saw with Cody Glass, the Penguins got a 3rd and 6th-round pick just to take Cody Glass off of Nashville's hands. And again, they just wanted to get rid of Dumba for salary reasons. So you get a 2nd-round pick and a pretty solid NHL defenseman. And I like that he has some guts. Joe, we've talked about that a lot, how soft this Penguins team has been. How many guys have they brought in the last 2 weeks that are, fairly tough customers, fairly big guys? Like they will. I don't know if they'll be any better this year, but they'll be a little harder to play against, and that's a step in the right direction.
Well, I know one thing that people will stand up for Sidney Crosby this season.
Yes,
there's no doubt about that, and we're going to have at least, depending on who actually plays, we'll have 3 or 4 guys that will clear the crease and will hit people in the corner. And we'll drop the gloves if somebody sprays Jari or who Silovs or whoever it is. There'll be some animosity on the blue line this year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. Now Dumba's always been, and from what I've heard, his teammates have always liked him. I think he'll be a good guy in the locker room. And Corey, this is another guy. Okay, if the Penguins stink this year, they very well may. And if Dumba has a nice season last year of his contract, I could see someone like that getting flipped for a 2nd-round pick. Absolutely. So that just gives you all kinds of flexibility. There's no real downside in that move that Dubas made. I think he's having a really good offseason right now.
Yeah, it reminded me of like somebody like with Dubas. Sorry to cut you off, Joe, but what Dubas does here with collecting these picks is a good businessman who is all like the guy that always takes extra inventory from someone else. Like somebody that's like, I got some inventory to get rid of. You know what? Kyle always buys it. And he moves it. He's using this stuff. So yeah, but Joe, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna ask Josh if he felt the way I did over, now because of their time zone constraints. I didn't watch a lot of Minnesota Wild hockey, but for a good time up there, Dumba was a top pair guy. And I just really liked this game. And for some reason, he was always on the trade block. I mean, did I overrate him? Because I saw him make a couple of nice goals or make a couple of nice hits or drop the gloves. I just always thought he was a really good defenseman. Now, I know he's older now, but I think it's a great kid for Dubas.
Oh, I do too. And also, no, I don't think you overrated him. I think he's been a solid player. I think he's declined the last couple of years for whatever reason, probably. And it seems like he'd be a Billy G kind of guy. So I don't know what the deal was there. But nonetheless, I think he's fine. And also, we're going to talk a lot this summer about Erik Karlsson, whether or not he gets traded. And there's a real chance that he will. Let's just say that he does. If he gets traded, somebody has to pick up some minutes on the right side. That's something Dumba can do. No, he's not going to play 28 minutes a night, but he can pick up 20 minutes a night. He's a guy who's played pretty heavy minutes in his career, and that's important, not just if Karlsson is gone, but also I think we can acknowledge, even if he'll still be on the team, Chris Letang can no longer play the amount of minutes that we have seen him play the last couple of years. That's not in anybody's best interest. So at least this is a right-handed defenseman who you can put in the top four, who can eat up some minutes. They need someone to do it.
I have 2 points. One, did you guys, any fans can chime in? Has anyone seen the workout videos that Letang put out today, or the NHL put out on Twitter?
I did not.
Maybe it was Instagram. It was an incredible leg workout. And I was like, well, can he just go and check out some film?
I'm happy he does these workouts, but can he?
Yeah, I know.
Maybe talk with the new staff about defensive zone coverages. Or?
Yeah, he's like, hey, don't pinch here. Can we? I think that's more important.
You want me to change the way I play?
That being said, now the other question I have, and if we're jumping the timeline, Corey, let me know. You can back me off. But upon trading Karlsson, does he have a no move, and does a complete no move? And does a complete no move mean you can't waive him? Because I don't know. I forget where that ruling stands now, because Mr. Leddy did not want to be traded to San Jose, or pretended he didn't want to be, or said he didn't want to be. He did no trade. So they waived him, and then San Jose picked him up.
He does
so if Karlsson doesn't want to be traded, can he be waived? I guess is the point I'm saying.
I don't think he can. He does have a full no trade clause. Now the question is, would he be willing to waive it? And from everyone I've talked to, he would be willing to waive it for certain teams. I don't think he would be for any team. I really think, nobody knows his list of which teams he might be willing to go play for. I certainly think the better the team, the more likely he would be to go. I know there was a lot of buzz about the Maple Leafs and him this week. I don't know if that's true or if it isn't true. The Maple Leafs and the Red Wings are the two teams that keep popping up in Karlsson buzz. I wouldn't be shocked for Toronto. I bet he would go. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I bet he'd be willing to go to a good team. But I'm pretty sure, I'd have to look at his contract specifics, but I don't think he can be waived.
Okay, so it would be a no move then. Or,
Right.
or is it that if you're a no move, that means you can't be waived either? I guess that's the point of a no move.
So. But they're in a weird spot with him, because as maddening as he was last year, like, he's still one of their best defensemen. He's still, he can still do things that none of their other defensemen can do. So if he's still on the team this year, it's not necessarily like the end of the world. You can still work with him in some ways. But I just, it's kind of like Jari, right? Like, okay, if he's here, you can still make use of him, and he's still probably better than anyone else they have. But you'd still probably just rather move him at this point, because it's obviously not working and he makes a ton of money. So I'm fascinated by the Karlsson situation, because he is so polarizing around the league. There are still people who say, boy, I'd like to give him a shot. He's a Hall of Famer, is Karlsson. And you understand why. But there are also so many people I've talked. I heard from a former GM the other day who said, I wouldn't want that guy anywhere on my team, and any good team would be crazy to take him. So a lot of people think that about Karlsson too. There's no middle road with him at all.
Yeah, that way with Karlsson. I didn't think he would be this polarizing of a player. But
I actually think there's more of a log jam at defense now than at goaltending.
You're probably right. Like, it's getting that way. It's not. I don't think they're going to say no to, new defensemen.
There's a logjam, but they're all like number 5 or number 6 defensemen. That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
But they're all guys I like to take a look at, though, Josh.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
I want Pickering and Brunicki to play. I like calling them Brunicki. I want to see them. I want to see them play. And you still got Tang. All the bottom guys, but the double A guy, Wotherspoon. I'm spacing on somebody. Like, I want to see these guys play.
No, and you will. There's no doubt that you will. I'm actually writing an article for The Athletic this week. They always like when we throughout what we think the opening night roster might look like, 3 months before the season starts, whatever. People like reading that kind of stuff. And usually it's real easy. And I was looking at the roster tonight thinking, oh, shit, I got some decisions to make here. I don't know. The blue line especially is so much more crowded than it was. And in the Carlson situation, we just don't know what's going to happen with him. So it's already been a very busy, 13 days now for Kyle since free agency. I don't think he's done yet. I think he has some very interesting decisions still to make.
Yeah. I want to get like both your takes on this. I'm in a weird spot with the Penguins right now. I don't know what to think about them for next year. I don't think they're going to be a contender, but like, I feel like Kyle Dubas has threaded this needle of like, hey, this team might figure it out and become a playoff team, and that to a degree appeases Sid, but this team might also bottom out. Like, do you guys get that feeling? Like, I'm like, they're not as many pieces away from being a playoff team, I feel like, as they were last year.
I've gone on this show and I've gone on DVE and said, I think if he doesn't trade any forwards, I think they're a much better team than they were last year at the beginning of the season. And, we can say all the names, just, Novak, Tomasino, Mantha, Dewars. I'm spacing on somebody else, but if they keep everybody and somehow find a way to get rid of the dead weight guys, the Acharis and guys of his ilk, then we're ahead of the game. And then on defense, the double A guy, Watherspoon, Dumba. Now they got Silovs. They are a better team.
They probably are right now.
Last year, Silovs is 1,000% better than Ned.
Yeah,
you could make an argument. Do I think they're a playoff team? No, I don't. Not even close. But I still think the blue line's just so bad, and the goaltending is still a huge question mark. There's no question they're better at forward right now than they were. Mantha's addition alone, if you have that guy on the third line, like he never became maybe the star that people thought he would. He's a pretty good player though. I mean, he's still a 6'5" guy who's really talented. And I thought Tomasino is bringing him back is not a bad thing in a bottom six role. We haven't even seen Novak play really yet. I think he's going to play with Malkin this season. Maybe they'll be good together. And if you have Crosby, Rust, and Raquel on your top line, that's going to be a great line. So
in Brazil.
They have
way better. Connor Dewars, those two guys in the fourth line are way better than what we had last year.
My question is regarding the Penguins. Like I said, I still don't think they're a playoff team. I think they could be better on paper. The real question is, are Rustin, Raquel, and Carlson going to be on the team come October? I mean, nobody knows. It wouldn't shock me if they're all back. It wouldn't shock me if none of them are back. I mean, that's kind of the situation the Penguins are in right now. I don't know. I do think they're going to score more goals as currently put together. I think they're going to be tougher, harder to play against. The goaltending could be better. I just think there's going to be a lot of 5-4 games. That's just, to me, the way they're built right now. And also, guys, keep this in mind. There's a completely new coaching staff. That can be a good thing or a bad thing. Nobody knows the impact this new staff is going to have on them yet. So that's just kind of a mystery around them, I think.
That's an excellent point, Josh. But I will say this: the Metro can't be as bad as they were last year.
No. Yeah,
No,
it's going to be much better.
No matter what, the Rangers are going to be better,
and the Devils will be. I think the Devils will be good.
Yeah,
we know Carolina will be good in the regular season. Washington might take a step back. They'll still probably be a playoff team. I mean, it's Columbus. Maybe they'll take a step back, but I think they have some real talent too.
I think Columbus is on the rise.
Personally. I do too. So the Islanders might stink, but and Philly might. Who knows? But I can't think the division will be that bad 2 years in a row, which is another thing working against the Penguins. It could be, guys. They might be better on paper this year. It might be a better team in some ways, and might still finish lower in the standings. Like sometimes that just happens.
Yeah,
and you can't make heads nor tails of it, but that's just the way it is. But that they don't really have a top four on the blue line or close to it. That's when I look at this team, that's still the number one problem by far.
1,000% on that.
Yeah,
But I just think they're going to be a funner team to watch play because I think they are going to be nastier
I do
and
too.
meaner, and I think and they're going to have a little bit more scoring.
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing, Josh. Whenever you said 5-4 games, I'm like, there's no way to enjoy hockey more. I mean, we're Pittsburghers, so we've like grown up with this, but like now's your chance, Penguin fans. I mean, I'm always yelling at the fans saying like, don't complain about the downtimes, enjoy them. There's something about it. But then like Joe, like you said, like now we have some ass kickers that are just gonna get in there and make it a little dirty. You're not gonna, I mean, you'll still have Ryan Graves somewhere in the building, but you're not gonna have some.
I actually forgot about him.
Yeah,
I literally forgot about him this whole show.
It's like he might be in the building.
Kill.
Hopefully he's getting popcorn for Joe's sake, but I mean, you still have some soft serve ice cream that you have to see out there in front of the net. But you get some guys with the edge, and I always like Dumba. And by the way, I had one comment, and I realized I was saying Dumba apparently, like Goomba, like from Mario Brothers. So, yeah, so I don't know where that came from. I always like Dumba. I always did. Joe, kind of like your reaction. That's why I wanted to know what you thought. Like as a fellow fan, I mean, you're more than a fan, but like. I'm like, is it just because I liked him? I liked his name. I always saw him. I always happened to watch when he scored. I don't know, because there's certainly those guys where I'm like, oh my god, we got him, and then he comes to the Penguins. I'm like, oh god.
What's so funny about this is I think I said this last couple of weeks, the last 2 weeks I've said I'm fired up about this year way more than I was last year. Last year it just felt like this is really just dragging us through. This year it seems like we're mixing it up. Kyle's mixing some things up. I like a lot of the guys he brought in. I'm really excited for this season, and we're naming guys that this guy can move, and who knows who will take him. We haven't. I forgot Graves existed, and B, we can't even fathom anyone that would take him. It's like no one's going to take him. It's not
we can dream about Jari being traded, or there's some guys. Maybe they're movable. Not Graves is just
Well, yeah, but well, we're going to get into a little bit. I have a question for you guys on the Rust Raquel angle because I know that's what a lot of people want to know. But before we get into that, we'll also talk about the quarter century team. We had this kind of queued up a while ago, but we were like, let's save that for the summertime because it's fun to bat around. But we'll get to Rust and Raquel. My question for you guys. But before we do that, Mr. Bill Neofis, does he have any words of wisdom? And for those of you that don't know, in Pennsylvania, Bill is so far ahead of the curve that he was telling us not to be a distracted driver in April. And now it is illegal in Pennsylvania to be a distracted driver with your phone. So, stick tap to Bill Neofis.
Yeah, very much so. That's something, I need to be aware of as well. I don't think I'm the only one who. I've gotten pretty good. I really only look at my phone when I get a red light, but that's still apparently frowned upon now. So, we all need to be careful about that. Listen, he's the king of Pittsburgh insurance. We say it every week. We don't just say it because he's a sponsor and a friend. It's actually true. And we're just speaking truth here. Bill's the greatest. Neofis Insurance. They've been open since 1960 in Pittsburgh. So that's what 65 years, I guess, right? So for 65 years, they've been helping people in Western Pennsylvania get the best kinds of insurance. And I'm still on this pet insurance kick. I got to take one of the cats to the vet this week. I don't know how much that'll set me back. I think I'm going to get some pet insurance from Bill, and maybe it won't be as bad. I think that's actually the way to do it. So whatever the insurance needs that you have might be, and I'm talking any kind of insurance that you can think of, Bill Neofis and his staff will take care of you. They're located very conveniently in the North Hills. Give them a call. Tell them we sent you. They will be more than happy to talk Penguins and talk insurance. And Bill's number is 412-364-3388. So give them a call.
Thank
Bill. Thank you, Bill. And as I mentioned before we got to Mr. Neofis, the question I want to throw out to you guys, because everybody wants to know who's going to get traded, when, why, where. My question to you guys, I want to throw it to Joe first. Between Raquel and Rust, and Joe, I know Rusty's your boy, so that's a tough one. So taking your love of Rusty out, and I know you love Raquel too. Who do you guys think is more likely to get traded first, and why?
I think Raquel is more likely to be traded first because I think his the asking price is lower.
That's interesting that you went that angle.
I think Mr. Dubas knows that he has to be knocked dead by the offer. And I think people are still going to be playing hardball. And I think it's hard to look Sid and Gino in the eye if you don't have something that's like even an offer that no one can refuse.
Yeah.
I think Joe's right. Either of them could be traded. I think they probably both will be traded at some point in the next year or two, if I had to guess. I think Raquel's more likely. I don't think the Penguins would need quite as much in return for Raquel as Rust, so that's part of it. But I also just think Rust is a different figure in franchise history. And I know there are some people who say, well, who cares? It's all about the future. Okay, I understand that. But you are still dealing with, I always call him a giant in Penguins history, and he is. And he's also Sid's security blanket on his right wing. Like, there's something to be said for that. This is a guy who might be on the American Olympic team this year. This is an original Penguin. Other than the big three, he's the only one left. That does mean something to people around here. And I know Kyle Dubas wasn't a part of those teams, so he probably has no real romantic feeling toward keeping all the guys together because he's trying to build something for the future, but he's still aware of that. And he knows how much Rust means to the Penguins. So I just think it takes a bigger offer for Brian Rust to go. And therefore, I do think Raquel is the more likely one to go first.
Yeah, I think that answers a lot of people's questions because everybody wants to know. And I kind of get the vibe, like you guys said. I think Raquel is kind of like the canary in the coal mine. Like when that one goes, then your rusty canary should be going nuts, Joe, and letting you know to get out. But I hate seeing both of them go. Like I would love to see those two in the playoffs with Sid, and it is what it is. We are where we are as Penguin fans.
I've just said that as soon as you trade them, then you're looking for somebody exactly like them, especially at their contract level.
They are not overpaid, and you can say that for both of them. And I will say, too, and this is not a knock on Raquel, who I love on a personal level. Great guy, and obviously he is one heck of a good hockey player. But he's a little streakier. He had a great season last year. He wasn't very good the year before that. He's had some dips in his career. Brian Rust, you know exactly what you're getting every year from him. The only question with him might be if he can stay healthy, but you know exactly what you're getting. I don't know that Raquel scores 35 goals again next year. He probably doesn't. And as a result, I really think, his value is probably never going to be higher than it is right now. So that's something that I would consider. Whereas Rust is going to wear down at some point, but we haven't seen any sign of that. And he's so steady. I think his value probably stays higher a little bit longer.
Well, that's an excellent point, Josh, is that it's almost easier to box Raquel when a scout or a GM is selling that to his franchise or his decision makers. Like, hey, why I thought Raquel was going to go to LA, but then Kuzmenkov played so great, they re-signed him. When you say, hey, I need a scoring winger to play with Draisaitl, or I need this guy I need to score off this wing. Well, that's Raquel. Mm-hmm. When you're saying, I need a guy that's going to at least get 20, 25 goals, play in every situation, be Mr. Clutch, and be the guy I want on the ice either to get a goal with a minute left or to protect with a 1-goal lead. Well, that's a little more nuanced, and that's Brian Rust. Brian Rust can be much more valuable at the deadline when people look around and go, hey, we're 5 points away from a President's Trophy, but no one here has ever gone past the second round.
Oh,
yeah. And you have a guy. There's something to be said for a guy that takes the puck to the net like Brian Rust does. You know what I mean? Like for the way that it like really hardens your team for a playoff run. Like, knowing you have a guy like that's gonna because of that, and again, that's part of his downside is he gets hurt so much because of the way he plays. But you have a guy like that. Nothing against Raquel, but he's a little bit more on the edge.
I thought Raquel plays hard nosed too, but there's something about everyone they signed Parades. They want to put him in the Hall of Fame. Mr. Game 7, the guy from Carolina and the Kings. I love the guy. Mr. Game 7 is great, but we have Mr. Elimination.
No, it's true. I mean, listen,
teams. You don't think Toronto wants a guy that can score a big goal once?
No. Therein lies the problem, though. If you're Dubas, what if somebody does just blow you away with an absurd offer for Rust? He's not unmovable. Okay, he's not that guy. There's only one of those guys. And that's the guy wearing the C. I know interest has been really heavy in Rust. It's been heavy in both of them. The teams are. I have had people in the organization literally tell me Kyle's phone rings every day, and it's always somebody that wants Rust or Raquel. The question is, and only Kyle really knows this, what is the offer? What would it take for him to finally pull the trigger on one of those guys? Maybe we'll find out this summer. Maybe we won't. I think it's a matter of time that one of them goes, though. I just don't see him keeping both of those guys long-term on the roster.
Well, I would ask both of you gentlemen, what would it take for you to give up Brian Rust?
Go first, Corey. I got to think about this.
Definitely a first-round pick for me. I don't know what other picks would come along with it, but I would say absolutely a first-round pick, like pronto, like next year. You know what I mean? Not like 2 years down the line. Like, it's this year. It's June's pick, and I'd have to get at least one good NHLer and somebody's. They probably won't give you their top prospect, but top 3, something like that.
Yeah, it would have to be multiple pieces, one of whom is ready to play in the NHL right now. So if you get a first-round pick and like a legitimately good young player, maybe something like that. I don't know. And that's the thing, Joe. You mentioned this contract. Like, not only is it reasonable for the Penguins to keep him because of the money he makes, but it makes him even more valuable to other teams that he doesn't make that much more money. That's where you can really get some leverage and screw them in a return. Like, hey, this guy only makes $5 million. He would get 6 or 7 a year on the open market. You're getting him for 5. So you're going to give me that asset too.
See, for me, for Rusty, for my boy, when I first heard Mr. Clark from LA, I was like, okay. Well, now I'll listen to the phone call.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it'd be like Bo and Byram, and more. To me, it has to be a projected top pair defenseman on the Pittsburgh Penguins. After that, the picks and whatever minutia you want to throw out to make the chart on the NHL Tonight look longer. Okay. But I didn't know that guy's going to play 25 minutes for the Pittsburgh Penguins on a top pair. That's what I need back, because you're not going to get the forward that have to come back would literally have to be, Lundell or, someone that we're not going to get. So give me, or Nyes. So give me the defenseman the top pair defenseman that's a number 3 or 4 on your team that they can play next to Letang.
Yep, and that makes sense because that's obviously a massive area of need for the Penguins moving forward. But Joe's right. Come July 1st next year, you're just looking for the next Brian Rust in free agency anyway. You're not wrong. And it's not like they want to trade Rust or Raquel. I think that needs to be clarified to people. Rust and Raquel, other than Sidney Crosby, who doesn't want to be traded, those are their most attractive assets to teams. Like, those are the guys who would get the biggest returns by far. No one else is even close. They might get something back for someone that take most of Erik Karlsson's contract, but that's not really a trade that's going to help the Penguins other than saving money. Whereas Rust and Raquel, who are, listen, Raquel is 32, Rust is 33. They are on the back nine of their careers. If you could get, multiple important assets moving forward, you have to consider it. And the Penguins still have so many guys who have no trade clauses or who just aren't really movable or have bad contracts. Some of that's Dubas is doing, some of it isn't. But that's why he's in this situation. If he wants to keep rebuilding and keep moving this thing forward, and keep getting like real blue chip return, those are the two guys that are going to bring that, and we all know that. So that's the situation he's in. Be careful trading both of them, though. If you don't want to lose Sid, if you don't want Sid to go nuts, trading both of them, that would not be fun for him. I think he'd be okay if one of them got traded. If I had to guess, losing both of them, especially Rust, I know that would really sting.
That is kind of why I was nervous about losing Raquel at the trade deadline last year, because I was like, it almost felt like there's only one pillar left that's gonna, before the whole tower crumbles on Sid, and he's sitting in the rubble. So, and hey, maybe there's somebody. I got to go look at Toronto's blue line depth chart and see who we could get, because I get all these comments were coming in, and I'm like, wasn't going to entertain this guy, but apparently some guy was like I Googled him, and he's like some YouTuber that does YouTube videos after Maple Leafs games. But apparently he was saying stuff like, how does Josh know what Sid wants in your articles and all that kind of crap? I mean, who doesn't say that stuff? But it comes from Toronto. So now that I know there's a Toronto YouTuber, some rando dude.
Why is it that hockey fans in Minnesota and Detroit or wherever else don't give a shit where Sidney Crosby plays, but all the Canadian teams are just very insulted that he's or all the Canadian fans are very insulted that he still plays in Pittsburgh. I've had Canadians fans just going nuts on me on social media all week. Like, Sid wants to be here. Like, I don't think he does. I'm sorry. I think that would drive him crazy probably. And I love Montreal, but it's just it's the topic that just won't go away.
Yeah, it's so annoying, and even Elliot Friedman gave it a little bit of talk on Kyprios's show. He didn't go as far as saying that he thinks it will happen, but he was kind of playing into Kyprios's scenario of like, well, yeah, at the Olympics, I could see that happening. I don't know. I mean, it's summertime, so I guess everybody's just looking for something to talk about.
And as for whoever the Maple Leafs blogger or whoever, like I probably have spoken with Sidney Crosby more times than that guy, so I might have a better feel for what makes him tick or what he would like to do with his future. And again, I'm not speaking for Sid, and I say this on this show every week. Like, Sid doesn't owe Pittsburgh a damn thing. If he wants to go, no one's going to be insulted. Everyone's going to be happy for him if he finds success in his next stop. But I only base it on what he's told me and what he's told other people and what he always says when he doesn't want to go anywhere. He was skating at 8 a.m. before the prospects last week and was going out of his way to meet them afterwards. Like that's not how a guy behaves when he wants to be traded.
Yeah, no, he's not showing the language. It's not coming across, and I just feel bad for the guy. I mean, it's hard to feel bad for Sidney Crosby. He leads a pretty good life, but it's got to be annoying, and whatever. It's people need stuff to fill their summer content. And speaking of filling,
what a segue, Corey! Jesus.
We've been holding on to this one since it came out. The NHL's quarter century team, and Evgeny Malkin is not on it. No, I'm just kidding. He is not Mr. 26 on this one or whatever. Joe, I was trying to verify while the show was going on if this is the same image or not, but I found an image. It looks like it possibly is a fan one. But it's probably pretty close. So let's go through it. I mean, we could just use that for a visual. We have the list that you texted to as well to go off of. But is there anybody
that's not the list I had?
Okay, that's not the right.
Maybe. Well, you know what though? I don't have. Now this is great radio. Or I don't.
Well, I didn't see.
I didn't have Pavelski.
You didn't have.
And Pavelski. I don't have Brent. I didn't have Brent Burns. And I didn't have Hedman.
Huh. Well, that's just the fan vote. But let me.
Oh, that's the fan. Okay, that's why. So this is not the official one. So let me just read real quick the official one.
Yeah, go read through.
Okay. So because I was saying everyone on that list is everyone I was going to argue for the next 20 minutes for.
I'll put that up there for that way you have notes to look at.
No, don't, because I'll give away. Okay, so here's the official 25 from the 25th century. Sid, Gino, Patrick Waugh, Martin Brodeur, Roberto Luongo, Henrik Lundqvist, Marc-Andre Fleury, Carey Price, Bergeron, Datsut, Patrick Kane, Stamkos, Ovechkin, Chara, Iginla, Lidstrom, Sakic, Solani, Joe Thornton, Johnny Hockey, Nathan McKinnon, Makar, Matthews, Leon, and Jesus. The hard part about this list, and when I debate this in my mind, is it's the century. So a few big things happened before the lockout that have put a couple of these guys in here, which you don't even almost think about in the new modern era.
There's a lot of goalies on that list that didn't win a damn thing in the NHL, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, this is my number one clause right here, Mr. Yowie. So, right. So
Price, Lundqvist,
Price,
Luongo,
Bobby Lou, right? Not making the team. Jonathan Quick, Andrei Vasilevsky, and Bobrovsky.
Yeah, how does that happen?
Now you can say Quick. Now I see. To me, I think Lundqvist has been overrated, but I would put him over Carey Price. I think doesn't belong in this list at all, and I think Bobby Lou would be the next to go. Now Quickie's got 2 cups. That's not the end all be all. Okay, but there's no way that Vasilevsky should not be on that list. He was the best goaltender for a decade. He just fell off being the number one guy you want for one game.
Yeah, I don't understand how he's the first name I would think of any goalie in the last 25 years, honestly. I mean, especially because you consider Brodeur and Waugh, a lot of their greatness came before the turn of the century, right? They were still great for a few years after, especially Brodeur. But Vasilevsky, I mean, I remember I was having a conversation with Chris Letang last year. I said, Chris, you've been in the league almost 20 years. Who are the best goalies you've ever faced? And he said, well, I'd probably rank Brodeur number 1, but he goes, him or Vasilevsky. It's like those two are by far, it's not even close. Those are the 2 guys that he thought of. Vasilevsky's a surefire Hall of Famer. It goes without saying how great that guy is. And that's a classic example. If he were from a farm in Saskatchewan, I promise you he'd be.
Oh, God.
How about Bobrovsky, though? And Quick's an American, so that hurts Quick. He's an American, right?
But Quick is really underappreciated. When I think of those Kings, those Kings teams were very good defensively. I understand that. But, man, that guy and those 2 playoff runs, that was about as good as it gets. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. And look at what he's done. Like the last couple of years with the Rangers, like I think he's done something for his legacy. When you just see still what a high level that guy is operating at, man. Just a terrific goaltender. So I've always thought, Luongo, really good NHL career, played forever. I know he has the numbers. I never viewed him as I don't know. He's not up there. He might be up there with Waugh and Brodeur and Fleury with all-time wins or whatever. I never considered him quite on their level, though. I'm sorry.
No, that's longevity gets you some numbers, and you start racking them up. I mean, I was sitting here thinking about.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Bobrovsky, I didn't want to forget. Like now that maybe that voting was before their second cup, maybe it'd be different now that he's won 2 in a row. He's also won multiple Vezinas. Like this guy's a Hall of Famer. I mean, it's not.
That's I say. To me, Price and Luongo are definitely out for Vasilevsky and for Bobrovsky. Now you want to put Quick. I mean, I put Quick over Lundqvist just because he has 2 cups.
Yeah,
I understand why people would pick Lundqvist, but look at what you have: Luongo, Canadian goalie, who played a lot of his career in a Canadian market. Price, Canadian goalie, played for one of the highest profile Canadian teams in Montreal. And then you have Lundqvist, who gets the New York rub. So that certainly, I think, plays a role when you consider the franchises those three guys played for. But those are three guys who won a ton of money and who never won a Stanley Cup. So you can't ignore that.
This is going to get me a lot of heat up north, but Carey Price just never did it for me. Like, I was like, he's good. You know what I mean? Like, I never was under any impression that he was going to win a Stanley Cup.
Everyone I think who was overrated, I just hear Pierre Maguire waxing poetic about them. Then I know they're overrated. Like Mr. Bergeron. How is Patrice Bergeron in this ahead of Andrei Kopitar and Jonathan Taves?
Yeah, much as we like to crap on Taves. Well, not like to, but do.
Well, I always say I would take Kopitar over Bergeron any day of the week. And with Taves, it's gotten to the point where, like, did Taves become maybe overrated during the Blackhawks heyday? Yeah, because I think most objective hockey people could look at those teams and say Kane was their best player, and Hossa and Keith may have been better players than Taves also. But let's not ignore how great Taves was. You talk about clutch players all time, like that was him. I mean, he was actually, I think, so overrated for so long that he's actually become underrated, and some people actually don't appreciate just how damn good he was.
Hey, Taves made the top 100 of all time. He beat out Gino,
which is absurd, but yes,
right. But I mean, I like I've said for 5 years, if Kopitar played in Boston, they would have already built the statue of him already.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I mean, to me, Bergeron's Bergeron is one of the 5 most overrated players in my life. Oh, he wins big draws. And what big games has he won?
And he was
Barkov didn't make the team. Barkov is 10 times better than Bergeron.
Well, Bergeron was also in one of the worst NHL commercials ever, which is saying something because the NHL doesn't really put out the greatest media. Do you remember those World Cup of Hockey commercials?
Yeah, they weren't good.
Well, with what I forget what that character's name was. It was pretty bad, and Patrice Bergeron put on one of the worst performances I've ever seen in a commercial.
And here's the other thing: if you want to give the career achievement award to Brodeur and to Waugh, how do you not give it to Yager?
Yeah,
Yager's Ranger career, you might not want to think about it, but it was incredible.
He won an Art Ross in the
2001. He won the scoring title. That's right. Tied for the league in points in 06, I think, with the Rangers, right?
Yeah.
And he was 2017, I think, or 16 or 17. He came in 4th in the MVP voting, for God's sake. With Florida. Yeah, a great year with Florida. No, I mean, come to think of it, that's a really good point. If longevity is playing a role, why isn't he included? A great chunk of his career came in this century for sure. These things are silly,
I know it's great summer program though. You have to,
no, it is. It's perfect.
So a couple more to throw out on defense. How about Drew Doughty?
He's not on there.
Nope. And a guy we like to shit on, Erik Karlsson.
Yeah.
Who are the defensemen that are on the team?
Lidstrom, Chara
and Lidstrom, I can understand.
Yeah, those make sense.
Duncan Keith isn't even on there. Duncan Keith is not on the team. How is 3-time Stanley Cup champion and a Norris Trophy, and he won the Conn Smythe?
We have our fun with Chris Letang, but I might put him on the team before Brent Burns, quite honestly.
Well, Brent's not on that team.
Oh, he's on that? Okay,
I would.
I saw him on the fan vote. Not a big Brent Burns fan.
I would put Burns ahead of Letang. I'm sorry. Now here's the one here's one that I just want to say. I'm not trying to be sensitive. I know they're trying to do good things. Johnny Hockey does not belong on this list.
I know.
Right. I know. But what can you say?
I know. I don't mean to be the bad guy. I love Johnny Hockey when he was in college.
Player. Yeah, I know. I had that thought as well.
Because you know who was not? Because you know what's a serious crime? Kucherov is not on this list.
No, again. There seems to be a bit of a European bias on this
Yeah, there's
list.
something about those guys that are from
If I'm not mistaken.
near Moscow.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
interesting.
impressed that Gino got on this team.
I know. I'm surprised Ovi made it.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
The Canadians love him though. Like they I don't know why. I mean, they really do. I think because he plays like the Canadians like their players to play. I've always thought that he's like an honorary Canadian because he likes to hit people.
Which is really funny that the Canadians like him for that reason, because they hate the Florida Panthers. It's the exact team that if that Florida Panthers team was the Montreal Canadiens, or God forbid it was the Toronto Maple Leafs, I mean, they would be canonized. They'd be building the Tower of Babel trying to get them to heaven sooner because they, I mean,
Canadians struggle with Ovi in general because they don't like his politics much either. But they just love how he plays so much. I think there's very complex relationship there with Ovi in the country of Canada. I've always been interested in that.
A listener just put one in, but Chris Pronger not on the list.
I know he won his MVP in 2000, I think it was.
And he was playing in the 2007 Ducks.
He was really good.
He was pretty awesome. Then that's fair.
He actually will. I mean, he kind of willed the Oilers the cup in 2006 too.
He's a no doubt Hall of Fame player. Oh yeah, they don't make him like him anymore.
No, I don't like him because of what he did to Sid. But right now, the only two defensemen on the team, according to my list, which is the official list, are Lidstrom and Chara. And to me, I take those two over him.
I would take those two over any defenseman in the.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's not like he got snubbed, because I will say this: to me, Patrick Waugh is the greatest goaltender I ever saw play, and I'm not going to knock Brodeur. I'm not going to knock Marty. He has more records than anybody. But I think those are all mostly done in the 90s, and I don't think he's in the 25th century or whatever century it is. Luongo overrated, Hank overrated, Price overrated. I could easily put Quick, Bobrovsky, and Vasilevsky and put a couple more defensemen in there, and I'd be a lot happier about this list.
Yeah. Well, Vasilevsky being excluded from any list is absurd to me. I mean, I've not in all my years covering the Penguins, I've not covered a better goalie in the NHL than that guy.
There's not one year of Luongo's that was better than any. You could pick any year of Vasilevsky's, put them side by side. I don't think Luongo was ever better.
Isn't it interesting how even though Flower won his cups in Pittsburgh and will always be a legend here, he needed to go to Vegas to really cement his legacy. And taking an expansion team to the Stanley Cup final just did wonders, I think, for the way we view his career. Not that he didn't have a great career before then, but there were some rough patches. And Fleury's career was a very interesting thing. He was also replaced in almost every city he was in at one point or another, which is wild when you look at what all he accomplished. But I really think he needed to go to Vegas for people to say, yeah, that guy's an all-time great.
Oh, he would have never made this list if he just went to like St. Louis and disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might be right.
He was, Flower, we all love him. And it's one of those things, not that the legend was written or whatever, but you have to wonder. I mean, I always sit there and go, I've said it on the show multiple times. Could you imagine if Jim Rutherford had traded Matt Murray, the haul he would have got, and we would have won the cup in 2018? But then there's the reality of the human element and leaving and how you said, it kind of it changes the scenario for Fleury. It puts him in a different situation because let's be honest, there were some rough years. I mean, I remember that 2012 series against the Flyers. That was not pretty.
No.
And he got yanked for what's his name, Vokun, in 2013. It's just one of those things. Almost the legend grew in Pittsburgh because he left. Not just
one thing that people don't really understand about that time period. Fleury wanted to go. He was ready to go. He saw how good Matt Murray was, and I think he was kind of at peace with it. And Jim would have traded him during the 16-17 season, and Fleury said, "No, I want to win another cup here. Let's do that first, then send me to Vegas. That's fine." And he was just kind of ready to move on. I think he realized that Murray, and nobody could have, foreshadowed what was going to happen with Matt Murray and his health or whatever it was that happened with him. But Fleury saw how good he was, and I think it was like, all right, you're a number one goalie. Be the guy here. I'll go be a number one guy somewhere else. That's okay. He just didn't want to share the net with anyone else, and you can't blame him for that.
Yeah. It looked like somebody. I remember at the parade, like seeing all the video footage of him afterwards, and I was like, that looks like somebody who's ready to go. And and then he did give us the great moment that is, if you're ever listening to DV around 10 o'clock, it is forever memorialized. The Staggy Murray Fleury chant is at the end of the DV morning show.
Hopefully Staggy stopped listening to this podcast by now, or I'd never come on there as a guest anymore.
Oh, he won't talk. He doesn't like that part.
Oh no, he does not like that at all.
Oh, I thought they kept that on there because he like to laugh at it.
Staggy's a friend of the show. It's fine.
I know. I'm just kind of busting Corey's balls a little bit, but it's not Staggy. Staggy doesn't like reliving that moment too many times.
Hey, Steno, the great Paul Staggerwald. I've heard him on the radio, and he's got like a comedic. He's got some comedic chops to him that most people in the media do not have.
Oh no, Staggy's the best. It's just he's it's just funny with that moment. No, I forgot what I was gonna say now. Something about now this might be controversial, but in the grand scheme of things, Flower kind of a compiler. Then in fact he went to 5 finals and won 3 of them.
He just had the strangest career. I mean, you could say he's a compiler. You could say he was replaced in like 5 different postseasons, I think, by another goal. I mean, that doesn't speak highly of him necessarily.
Sounds like Halleback's going right to the Hall of Fame.
But, right. But the guy's got his name on the cup 3 times. He took an expansion team to the final.
Well, number 2 all time in wins. I mean, that's a compiling stat, but that's one of those things that is it to me is impressive as Sid going to number 2 all time in points. There's a certain record that's never going to get touched up top.
Well, that compiler thing is a compliment, because that's what I said when I understood why they kept Murray and got rid of Flower. But I said at the time, and you can look it up in all the archives of radio and puck off, I said it's hard to play 60 games and win 40 of them every year.
And he did it every year.
He was
remarkably durable.
And look at the last 8 years, how it's all been taken for granted, or it was.
And you know what else I would say about him, even though it had nothing to do with winning or losing games, but I think he was like the last goaltender who was a star. Like he was worth the price of admission. He's such of a showman. Just the way he would pet the posts and, talk shit to people in the middle of games. And it was obvious he was doing it. Goalies don't do that kind of stuff. And you'd watch him and he was just so different and so entertaining. We talk about, staying up late to watch Vancouver games sometimes when you had nothing else to do. If Flower was playing, I want to go to bed. But Flower's playing. I miss watching him play every night. I got to tune in. Like he no other goalie makes me. I gotta watch Flowers playing. But anytime he played, you just had to.
Well, it was from day one.
Yeah. Yes, but now, don't you think that even if it's just the media concoction, don't you think they're trying to make the Russian in New York a superstar?
Yeah, and he's great. I mean, listen, he's the real deal. But he still doesn't have the charisma that Fleury had. I mean, of course they're trying to make him that. He is a little theatrical, but not like not like Flower. Igor likes to take some flops and to run his mouth a little bit, but like Flower, I don't know. I always say with Fleury, it was like I thought for Pittsburgh over the years, watching him, it was as though your own child was the goaltender. And you were living in, and every time he would play the puck behind the net, like, Jesus Christ, Mark, just get back in the net. What are you doing? Like, it was like it was your kid out there because he was so vulnerable on the ice at all times. And the goalies just aren't trained to be that way anymore. They're trained to be robots. But he wasn't that way. Even the most famous save he ever made, he just lunged and threw his body in front of a puck. It wasn't exactly goaltending technique 101, but that was what made him special.
Yeah. Yeah. And like from day one, Joe, I know you were at the arena that night. Josh, I don't know if you were for Fleury's first game, but
I wasn't.
We lost 2-0. Maybe 3-0.
It was 3 with an empty netter. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was 2-0 at the time, and he stopped. I mean, you knew there was no chance the Penguins were scoring that night, and everybody's cheering for that penalty shot. And like Joe, I remember leaving that game and looking at my buddy going like, it feels like we just won. Like we feel like we won. Like what happened?
Well, wait until tonight. Wait until October 10th when Arturs Silovs is in net. You'll feel the same way.
Be the same thing. I'll grab my
game-winning goal by Anthony Momantha.
That'll be
from Brunicki and McGrarty on the power play. That's what's
and Gavin McKenna in the stands watching on an off night from Penn State. Just getting used to his new digs because he's coming to Pittsburgh. But that'll do it for us this week on Two for Talking, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate all of you as always, and great show, guys.
Real quick programming note that we haven't even discussed this, but I do believe whenever we do our next show, probably on the 20th or 21st, I believe Mr. Kabali will be joining us to preview Steelers training camp. So,
fantastic! That's great. I was actually going to ask you as soon as we stopped recording. I was going to ask.
He said he'll come on whenever, so I'm just announcing it now. I think training camp starts on the 24th, so that'll be the last show before the Steelers go to Latrobe. So we'll probably have Mark on for a little bit of Steelers talk.
Yeah, we'll get to hear what he thinks covering Aaron Rodgers is going to be like.
From his mansion in McKeesport.
Get that grand piano out, Mark.
That's
and
right.
Everybody will get to see it next week, and we will talk to you guys then.
That was a fun show.